Hey everyone, welcome back to Bucky's Customs. Hey, in this video, I'm going to make a very useful shop jig. One that I've been wanting to make for a very long time, and I finally have gotten to it. And you know what? I'm going to use the long mill to make it. So stay with us. Okay, I've got VCarve Pro open and the file for our juice groove cutter jig, and I'm not going to create another one. I'm just going to give you a few things that I did inside this jig, but the most important thing I wanted to show you was the toolpaths and how to do them. We're going to go through that. But at any rate, I took a piece of plywood that I had already and I went to the setup and I made it 26.5 wide by 30. That's this dimension here is 26.5. This way is 30. And I use the datum in the center of the board. So everything that I start from is the center in this particular project. And of course it's a little less than 3/4 of an inch thick, so I just made it 3/4 of an inch. Going to dig into the wasteboard, but so be it. So we'll click OK. Now, in order to create the identical pieces that I have here, I didn't just cut and copy and paste. I used the array tool. I created one complete. Okay, so this time it should work. It did. So I made that, and then I went over here to the offset and layout, and I clicked the array and copy tool. And what I did was I just copied them down. I'm using an 1/8 inch bit, so I made them 1/4 of an inch apart. And I just set the gap for 1/4 of an inch and copied it down, and it made 4 of them for me. And that's how I did that. I did the same thing with this. I had these sizes in mind. This is 4 inches tall. These are 6 inches long. These are 26.5 inches long because that's my board. So that's how I did all that. Now I did locate, like I say, off the center. So all my toolpaths are going to start in the center. So when we get over to the board, we draw the diagonal to get our center point, and then we set our center up and go from there. So let me show you how I did these toolpaths. Now I'm gonna just create new ones. I'll leave these here. What I will probably do first is put the board in the machine and clamp it down with my T-track clamps, and then I'm gonna do these tool profiles. I'm going to do the slots first, and you can multiple select by hitting the shift key. Okay, now I'm also going to do these holes here. These are already grouped, so what I'm going to do there is we're going to use a clearance toolpath or a pocket toolpath, and we'll open that up. You can see that we start at 0. We're going to go to 3/4 of an inch because I'm going to go right through the piece. We're going to use the end mill, which is 1/8 of an inch, and then we're going to call this one pocket 1 because I named everything else different, and calculate. And that's what it does. It goes through and it makes all those. We could preview it and you could see it made slots. Okay, so what it did was it made the slots and the holes. Now what I want to do is I want to deselect that, and I want to select this outside one and hit the shift key and select all the outside ones and then I'm going to select the inside one right there. Okay, then we're going to do a pocket or clearance between those two, and we're only going to go in 1/8 of an inch, and that's called pocket 2, and we'll calculate that. And you can see what it does. It puts this groove, a little bit of a recess in here, and that's what that does. Now we'll close this, go back to our 2D view, and now we can do all of the outside perimeter, and we would select all those like this, hit the shift key, come right up, select all the perimeters, and you want to do a profile toolpath. You want to select that, you want to go 3/4 of an inch. You do not want to make 25 passes. I'm going to edit the passes. I want to do, let's do 6 and see how it adjusts it. And we'll say set passes, okay. So now we're at 6 passes. They're going to make 1/8 inch deep each, and we're not going to use the we're not going to use tabs because I'm going to hold it down in a different way. And then you want to calculate that, and there's your profile. So if we do all the pass and then we double click what we don't want, that's what's left, and our jig is made. So let's go over to the mill and we'll start carving this. Well, you know what time it is. It's time to thank our sponsor, Siencilabs, the makers of the Longmill benchtop CNC, just like the one we use here in our shop. Go to their website, cnc.com, and check out this awesome machine. You'll be so happy you did. And while you're there, check out all the accessories this machine has to offer, like this 48-inch X-axis extension. So go to their website and check it out. Now let's get back to our video. What I've done is I've mounted the board in with these 4 clamps. And I know what you're saying, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the holes first, and then I'm going to screw this board down through the holes. You know, the slots and all that. We've already centered off of the middle of the board, and we've already set our Z height with the touch probe. And I know you all know how to do that. If you don't, you can go back and look at one of the videos that I had done previously, and I'll leave a link of that somewhere up in here maybe. But anyway, yeah, we'll just do the holes. I'll screw it down with those holes right to the wasteboard, then we'll do the profile cuts. cut all the grooves, all the holes. I cut the recess in the big slot where the bolt is going to run. And now I'm going to do the outline. I know I had said I was going to run screws through the holes, but I've decided that I'm going to use my nail gun. And it is magically clean. I'm not sure I put enough nails in this. Pretty sure I did. But they came up pretty easily. And they stay in the MDF, which is kind of nice. We are to the point now where I could put some pocket holes in the back side of this, fasten it to the side here, and then we can put the bolts and washers through, and we got ourselves a jig. I'll show you how to use it. Okay, so you noticed in the carving part I went over and I X'd one end, and that was because I'd noticed that it was kind of shifted one way, so I wanted to make sure that the end that got squared touched with the bit, because this end did not. So this end got squared. This is the one that I'm going to put against for the for the corner. So this will be a perfectly square corner. This really doesn't matter. It's just going to hang out in the open, so should be good there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to countersink. I've got a little countersink here. I'm going to countersink the holes and screw this together, put a little glue on it, screw it together, and hopefully that'll be strong enough. I won't need any brackets or anything, but if we decide we want to do brackets, we'll do them after. Now I'm going to clamp this so that this stays perfectly straight. This is important. You want this to stay really flush when you drill. I am going to run a pilot drill into this portion so that it doesn't wander when the screw goes in. Just enough. Now we can take that clamp off and everything is nice and flush. I'll drill the pilot for this one. It's important that you pre-drill plywood because it'll split on you because of the layers. It can wander and move your piece. You really want to clamp and make sure everything is nice and straight. And there we go. One piece is done, and we can check this for square, and it's perfect. So hopefully it stays that way and we won't have to, but I get the feeling I'm going to have to put some sort of brace in here, whether it's maybe I'll use a metal brace just to keep it from over time it might get banged or whatever. I'll screw the other 3 together, then we'll cut the bolts to length and we'll put this thing together. Okay, I went ahead and assembled the jig. I put all the nuts and bolts in it. I was able to get some corner brackets. I had to run out to the store and get those, and I decided to put them on. I think it'll keep it stronger. I went to Amazon and ordered a tape measure for the top of 2 of these so that I can get an idea what size I'm looking for to bring it into. Otherwise, you got to measure and figure that all out, and that's what we're doing first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have a cutting board that is sanded. It's rounded, and it'd be very difficult to find the center of that cutting board, so I made this jig. And I'll put the cutting board in it and we'll pull the jig up tight. We'll do a crisscross method using the corners on the jig to find the center of the board. So what I want to do first is, the cutting board's 12 by 18, so I want to kind of get this close. We're going to do it close, and then once I have it close, I cut these spacers, and we'll put these in here just like that. Now you're timing this. This is how long this takes. Grab the cutting board, and we're going to set the cutting board in here and squeeze this right up against. Now, I don't need to make it so tight that you can drive a truck over it. I just need to make it tight so that I can measure it. Ideally, you want your spacers to be a little bit shorter so that the board is down a little bit farther, but the whole thing will be squared once we use our ruler, and just by using the corner off of the jig, we can now find the exact center, mark it both ways, and then we would have the center of our board, which, if I can do that, when somebody hands me a board and says, hey, you know, I have this old board, I want to put a cutting groove in it, or a juice groove in it. Can you do that for me? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Get this jig off the wall, set it on the long mill, put this in it, and I found the center. The other thing that I would do is I would have a positive stop here like I normally do, and that would be parallel to my x-axis. I want straight lines when I do this groove. So this would be parallel, put this up against, set the X and Y for the center portion, and then I'd probably do that with a V bit because it's got the point. And then I would take my ball nose, put that in there, use my touch probe and do the Z. Touch the top of this so I can get that Z height, and then we're good to go. Go ahead and carve whatever we've created for a juice groove. Sometimes the long mill isn't the quickest way for you. Maybe you want to put another board in and get something started without having to change the bit. So in this case, you could put a ball nose bit in your handheld router, and all you would need to do for that is, if we loosen this up, you could set this on your bench basically and take this out, set it right there, take our spacers out. Now I know the dimension from the edge of our router plate to the center, so I made some spacers. Just stick those spacers in there on all 4 sides, spread this out a little bit, put your board back in there, but put it between your spacers like that. Then pull this tight tighten it down all the way around, and then you can use your router to go around and make your juice groove. It perfectly centers the board. It perfectly puts the juice groove the same amount all the way around, which is really quick actually. Not as quick as actually leaving it on the mill and carving it, changing the bit, but like I said, I didn't want to change the bit one time, and I manually took a guide while this thing was cutting another board, and I just put a guide on this and went around gingerly. It took me quite a while to do, and at that time I think I wish I had a jig that I could use. Well, I'm sure this jig will come in handy for other things as well in the shop. Not just this, but it's going to allow me to set up jobs that I want to run on the long mill that are odd shaped. Like sometimes we 45 these corners. People like that. You can't find the center that way unless you put two straight edges out, and then you have to do that. And that's basically what I've done here, is two straight edges. But now it gives you an extra feature in that you can actually put a juice groove in. So many times where I get a cutting board that has been sanded off, beveled on the corners, there's a lot of fiddling around with that in order to get it right. And I take time and make sure, and I count twice, and I make sure I want it straight with the grooves in the board, with the glue ups in the board. So that's why I made this jig, not because I don't want to use a long mill. I love my long mill. I'm sure you will too when you go to their website at cnc.com and check this machine out, because I'm going to put links in the description below. But yeah, check it out if you don't already have one. This is a great machine for the DIYer for sure. Hey, if you like this video, go ahead and click the like button. And you know what? If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And, you know, click that notification bell. YouTube will let you know when I post again. It's pretty cool. Hey, in the meantime, be safe out there. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.